Hello and welcome to Global Business on CGTN. I'm Lily Lu, and these are headlines we're tracking at this hour. Tourism push. China unveils a 5-year tourism plan aiming to attract some 190 million inbound tourist visits each year, and spending totaling over $150 billion. AI innovation. The 25th China Internet Conference showcases cutting-edge AI technologies applied in real-world scenarios from education, marketing to corporate service. Market jitters. Global stock markets fluctuate as tech shares slide. Oil prices in the meantime rise amid renewed Middle East tensions. And as usual, let's get a quick check on Chinese mainland stocks, where we see equities today followed a weak global lead and finished the day in losses. This is where key indices stand at the end of the session. We see the deepest cuts in mid-caps in Shenzhen, which is down by about 1.9% on the Shenzhen Component Index, while the benchmark Shanghai Composite Index finished the day down by about 0.5%, trimming a bit less than 20 points over there. Tech shares in China also slid today. We're going to get you more details on global markets. For now, let's check out how regional shares are performing and how Wall Street closed overnight. And we start with China's foreign exchange reserves, which stood at $3.4 trillion at the end of June. That is down by 0.75% from a month earlier. The State Administration of Foreign Exchange said that exchange rate movements and changes in asset prices weighed on the value of foreign exchange reserves. It also added the U.S. dollar index rose in June, while prices of major global financial assets were mixed. In the meantime, China's gold reserve rose to over 75 million ounces, marking the 20th straight month of increase. China has unveiled a new 5-year plan to bolster China's tourism sector. The plan, approved by the State Council, targets 8.3 billion domestic tourist trips for 2030, with spending totaling $1.13 trillion. It also sets a goal of 190 million inbound tourist visits each year, with annual spending totaling more than $150 billion. The plan also encourages tourism operators to expand their inbound services, promoting the China Service brand through distinctive Chinese hospitality and delivering unique, memorable experiences for international visitors.
It has proposed a good idea, that is, combining China's hospitality culture with the demand for inbound travel.
We should give full play to the tourism-boosting role of China's manufacturing and services, as well as that of modern technology, notably AI.
Better traffic flow, more shoppers, and a boost from culture and tourism are driving growth in Beijing's subcenters, with the area well on its way to becoming an international consumption hub. And recently, British Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander visited Beijing's Tongzhou Station, which is an underground transport hub. Here's more from Zhao Shuang.
British Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander has become the first foreign dignitary to visit Beijing Tongzhou Station since it opened. She expressed her admiration for the facility during the tour.
Probably the closest we get to this, we're building a new high-speed railway between London and Birmingham, and there's 4 new stations. And so one station, Older Common, is the most far advanced at the moment, but it's going to take a much longer time to construct than this has here.
All railway stations, rail transit lines, and supporting facilities are located underground, with a planned floor area of 1.28 million square meters. The station also provides strong transport support for the growing nighttime economy. Since its official opening at the end of May 2025, the West Bank area has attracted over 3.8 million visitors and generated total sales exceeding 15 million yuan.
The evening atmosphere is excellent, and the foot traffic on this street is very strong. On weekends, we're always fully booked. We have 40 tables and typically max out at around 200 guests.
2 large waterfront viewing steps have eliminated the visual barrier that once kept people from seeing the water. They now serve as a stage for sports events and live performances.
In the evening, people are more drawn to taking a relaxed stroll along the Grand Canal. The beautiful natural surroundings blend seamlessly with our lush greenery and vibrant flowers, a perfect fusion of nature and design.
Tongzhou District, home to Beijing's municipal subcenter, has seen its GDP climb from 65 billion yuan to 163.88 billion yuan over a decade of development. That's an average annual growth rate of more than 6%. In 2025, the growth rate reached 10.8%, the highest among all districts in Beijing. The gains reflect progress in economic development, people's livelihoods, and the ecological environment.
We will continue to center our efforts on administrative office, business services, cultural tourism, and technological innovation. We aim to further upgrade our development capabilities and strive to establish a model of urban development that exemplifies China's modernization journey.
Better transport, more visitors, and a growing cultural and tourism scene are transforming Beijing's subcenter into a world-class, modern, and livable urban district. Zhang Shuang, CGTN, Beijing.
And for more on China's tourism planning, we're joined by Ying Chenzhi, Associate Dean of the School of Public Policy and Management at Tsinghua University. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Let's talk about the 5-year plan on tourism sector. How do you think this plan will help to boost cultural tourism integration and also help to upgrade China's tourism system?
Thank you for having me. The 15th 5-year tourism power plan would boost the cultural tourism integration, I think, by turning traditional heritage and local culture into engaging, immersive traveling experiences. Instead of just offering standard sightseeing like before, this plan encourages destinations to blend museums, historical sites, and local arts with some sort of interactive tourism. To upgrade the overall system, this plan would also, I think, likely focus on digital transformation and better infrastructure. This means introducing smart tourism technologies, improving service standards, and creating higher quality travel products. Finally, I think it would shift China's tourism sector from simply chasing visitor numbers to focusing on quality, sustainability, and somehow global competitiveness.
How can those vertical urban layouts help to ease big city elements and also energize cities under urban renewal?
Vertical urban layouts is a classical urban planning method. Nowadays, it definitely could ease big city ailments like traffic congestion and overcrowding by combining residential, commercial, and office spaces within the same high-rise buildings or multi-use complexes. When people can live, work, and shop in the same so-called vertical neighborhood, it significantly cuts down the need for long daily commutes, which may reduce traffic and pollution. During urban renewal, I think going vertical would also free up ground-level spaces for public parks and pedestrian areas, like our classical architects imagined, improving the quality of life, and also by building these efficient, multifunctional vertical communities, all cities could become more walkable, vibrant, and energized by staying sustainable.
And how does Beijing's subcenter shift from a mere transit hub now to a consumption cluster and help to reshape the whole Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei consumer landscape?
Yes, the Beijing sub-hub or subcenter is shifting from being just an administrative and transit hub into a major consumption cluster by, I think, building large-scale shopping centers, cultural venues, and entertainment districts or areas. By offering these high-quality retail dining and leisure options, it encourages tourists and residents to spend their money locally rather than traveling into the original downtown Beijing. This decentralization of commercial activities reshapes the Beijing-Tianjin-Hebei consumer landscape by creating a strong new commercial core in the eastern part of the complete region. It helps draw shoppers from neighboring Tianjin and Hebei, balancing out regional spending and promoting a more integrated and connected regional economy.
Well, thank you so much for your insights. That's Mr. Yingchen Zhi from the School of Public Policy and Management of Tsinghua University for us. And still to come here on Global Business. AI innovation. The 25th China Internet Conference showcases cutting-edge AI technologies applied in real-world scenarios from education, marketing to corporate service.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business. Only on CGTN.
The 25th China Internet Conference has kicked off in Beijing, featuring an interactive tech exhibition centered on cutting-edge areas including AI agents, multimodal interaction, and industrial AI implementation, showcasing innovative achievements from dozens of tech firms spanning a wide range of sectors: educational tech, digital marketing, enterprise services, and no-code development. Now, the exhibition shows how artificial intelligence is moving beyond technological upgrades and into real-world industrial applications.
Lightweight, accessible AI, unified computing power, and the industrialization of AI agents. These themes drove every major session on day one. Industry heavyweights from chips, communications, digital security, and smart hardware rolled out hands-on exhibits that visitors could actually try out themselves. Across the exhibition floor, no-code AI tools were open to the general public. Anyone can quickly build applications and interactive interfaces simply through natural language prompts, drastically lowering the barrier to AI development.
This year, our conference really focuses on one thing: the relationship between the internet and AI. What we're trying to get across is that China's internet infrastructure is actually the foundation AI is built on. At the same time, AI is bringing out the full potential of the internet, and that's a key theme for us this year. Another highlight is our forum on the synergy between computing, power, and energy. By bringing computing resources and electricity infrastructure together, we're looking at how to better support high-quality growth across both the industry and the AI sector. And that's really where things are headed.
On the industrial infrastructure front, a full set of national standards for interconnected computing resources were unveiled as a major launch on opening day, laying a unified foundational framework for large-scale AI deployments. Telecom operators also displayed cutting-edge trial results for 5G and 6G technology. Digital solutions supporting low-altitude economy and industrial internet were on full display, covering numerous niche segments of the real economy. The public well-being and security track was equally compelling, with companies demonstrating personal data protection tools and AI-powered anti-fraud tech that balanced smart functionality with privacy safeguards. Several parallel forums kicked off as well, with day one sessions diving deep into agent security, computing power energy coordination, and AI on end devices, where industry leaders shared real-world insights on turning theory into practice.
The United Nations has hosted its first high-level global dialogue on AI governance. The two-day meeting in Geneva reflects broad agreement on the need for inclusive, science-based global rules to ensure AI is safe, accountable, and beneficial to all. At the dialogue, China said it wishes to help bridge the global AI divide. Our reporter Julia Hamilton has more.
artificial intelligence is advancing faster than regulation, and the world is trying to keep up. The United Nations has brought together governments, international organizations, and field experts in Geneva to discuss AI governance, covering AI opportunities and risks, bridging AI divides, international cooperation, and human oversight of AI systems.
And we have seen different member states all around the globe which are introducing now already AI governance structures, and therefore also the learning from each other, being better together by joining forces. This is one of the key parts of these days here in Geneva.
Beijing is represented by Minister of Industry and Information Technology, Li Lisheng. Addressing the dialogue, he called for stronger international cooperation on AI governance, saying all countries should have an equal opportunity to develop and benefit from artificial intelligence. China has consistently backed the UN as the main platform for global AI governance and says it wants to help bridge the global AI divide. Some of China's leading AI experts are also attending the event.
We need a platform that put all the considerations all together to find the consensus interoperability. Instead of competing with each other, you find a way to connect with each other and to learn from each other. So the next step is that really to use the platform like this global dialogue on AI governance, like the UN General Assembly, to solve problems based on these discussions.
Following the high-level segment, industry experts and academics took part in thematic sessions and various side events to discuss potential benefits as well as bottlenecks in AI governance.
Governments and officials here agree that artificial intelligence is advancing at extraordinary speed. But building international consensus takes far longer. Here in Geneva, the United Nations hopes to provide a platform where governments can begin shaping common rules for one of the world's most transformative technologies. Whether that consensus can be achieved remains one of the defining questions of the AI era. Julia Hamilton, CGTN, Geneva.
Now let's get more discussions around AI development. For that, we are joined by Professor John Gong from the University of International Business and Economics. John, great to have you on the show as always. So at the AI era, one of the most important things is to have sustainable computing power. And China has this west to east green computing power transmission model. How do you think can this system deliver in terms of AI cost reduction and carbon neutrality?
Well, I think this is probably the only promising way of dramatically increasing electricity generation capacity. We understand that AI is going to need a lot of computational power. Some experts have been estimating that the national electricity generation capacity needs to be beefed up by something like 5%, and that's a very significant increase. And I think the only way to do this in a sort of a green way and in a climate agenda sensitive way is to do exactly what China has done, to rely on green technologies, to leverage off the solar power, wind power capabilities, very unique to China's northwestern area. So I think this is actually a very good model.
And what sort of impact do you think China's national computing network infrastructure would have on the future of global AI development?
Well, first of all, I think it's a great injection to the economy, creates a lot of jobs, by investing so much money into this. And then, of course, that also supports China's development of its own AI capability, which can be shared with the rest of the world. I think, program mentioned the issue of digital divide. I guess we have to revise this term to AI divide. These are AI-enabled countries and those not AI-enabled countries. But we have to be cognizant of the fact that this divide has to be filled up. I think for the long-term sustainable development of the entire globe, we need to have these interactions between the two sides, such that countries can develop in sharing equal opportunities.
And as many say, AI will change many things, if not everything. In what ways do you think AI and big data will affect consumers and the small businesses directly?
Yeah, I think the benefits are already starting to be promulgated throughout the society, through all walks of life. I think right now we are starting to see this being adopted by the manufacturing sectors, companies, and I think starting also being used very extensively by average folks, people who are using Chinese AI language models, American AI language models in their daily life, starting to see that. And I think this is actually happening very, very fast. And I think as the technology improves very rapidly, as the applications have been developed very rapidly, and actually also people's habits of using them are evolving very rapidly, things can happen very fast. We're rapidly getting into an AI era economy right now.
Well, thank you so much for your insights. That's Professor Jiang Gong from the University of International Business and Economics. Thank you so much. Time now for we to get a check on some other news related to China's tech sector. China is the world's largest source of fintech filings. That is according to a survey conducted by Nikkei and research firm Patent Result. The survey shows China accounted for over 38% of fintech patents filed from 2016 to 2025, more than twice the US, which ranks second. China's Commerce Minister Wang Wentao has urged the Netherlands to help maintain stable supply chains for semiconductors. He made those remarks at a meeting with his Dutch counterpart, Sjoerd Sjoerdsma, in Beijing. He also expressed China's willingness for further tech and green cooperation. And Chinese-built AI models are becoming increasingly popular among their U.S. clients. And according to local media reports, since the 8th of February, the token usage of Chinese AI models by U.S. developers has stayed above 30% on OpenRouter, a platform that integrates a range of AI models. And still to come here on Global Business. Market jitters. Global stock markets fluctuate as tech shares slide, oil prices rise amid renewed Middle East tensions.
A vast land of 1.4 billion people. The world's second largest economy. Home to stories of the unexpected, the unimaginable, the breathtaking. Stories that touch the soul. Feel the speed, the passion. Enjoy spectacular natural and cultural landscapes. Feel the thrill of cutting-edge innovations. Discovering China. Global Biz. China Travel. We present a China never seen before. 24/7 at your fingertips.
And now to the United States, where the trade deficit widened sharply in May as booming investment in artificial intelligence drove imports of capital goods to a record high. In the meantime, the Trump administration is stepping up its trade agenda, holding hearings on possible new tariffs targeting imports made with forced labor. Owen Fairclough has more.
If you thought the United States Supreme Court had the last word on Donald Trump's controversial tariffs, then think again. The highest justices in the land ruled that Trump had exceeded his presidential authority with most of the tariffs he imposed on just about every trade partner you can think of. But his administration is taking another swing at it, this time over the issue of forced labor. Trump's administration is threatening to impose tariffs of up to 12.5% on some 60 economies and trade partners, including the European Union, if they're found to have used forced labor on the import of goods into the US. Now, this is potentially huge. We're talking about nearly 100% of imports into the United States. And over the next 3 days, representatives of those governments affected and indeed companies are lining up here at the United States International Trade to set out their case with familiar concerns that these tariffs will simply make their businesses unsustainable.
We have been very clear that directly, Chile has no problem in that avenue, but we also are controlling the indirect relations with other countries that might have, this problem. Price will be affected, availability will be affected.
I think it would drive Brazil closer and closer to China. As you're aware, Brazil right now is the biggest receiver of investments from China, even bigger than the United States. The relationship between both countries is very strong, and as a result, Brazil is drifting away from the U.S. sphere of influence.
Now, the timing of this is potentially awkward, with US President Donald Trump sitting down as we speak at the NATO summit in Turkey with long-standing military allies and those very same trade partners who would stand to be affected by these tariffs. It isn't clear how they would work because many of those trade partners thought they'd negotiated bilateral agreements with the Trump administration for set tariff rates. So it's not clear how they would work side by side. It's also not clear when those tariffs would come into effect. But it is clear that tariffs are very much back on the menu, with the United States, Canada and Mexico revising a trade agreement that was already revised under Trump's first term to include tariffs, with some very familiar complaints being leveled by the Trump administration against Canada, for example, over imported whiskey into Canada and indeed dairy, including eggs. Owen Fairclough, CGTN, Washington.
Shifting gears to the Middle East, Iran has accused the U.S. of violating the Memorandum of Understanding with new military attacks. Iran has reported casualties after the U.S. attacks in its south. The U.S. military launched new attacks against Iran early Wednesday in response to Iranian attacks on 3 commercial vessels, including a Qatari tanker in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran says it has attacked 85 U.S. military sites in Bahrain and Kuwait after the U.S. strikes. The U.S. also revoked a license authorizing Iranian oil sales. Announced the move, vowing to take all necessary steps to defend its interests and national security. Iranian Foreign Minister Saeed Abbas Araghchi warned that talks with the U.S. will not resume if Washington keeps up its threats. Escalating tensions in the Middle East have driven oil prices higher for the 5th consecutive trading day, while also weighing on U.S. stock markets and snapping the Dow Jones Industrial Average's week-long winning streak. Brent and WTI crude oil futures are both up more than 2% on the day, with prices hitting the highest levels in exactly 2 weeks. However, the U.S. Energy Information Administration still cut its price outlook on Tuesday, projecting that Brent crude would remain at around $74 per barrel in its third quarter due to normalized shipments and production. Major stock indices in the U.S. in the meantime finished lower on Tuesday, with the tech-heavy NASDAQ bearing the biggest loss of over 1%. And staying with U.S. stocks, SpaceX was added to the NASDAQ 100 index on Tuesday, less than a month after its listing, forcing many U.S. stock markets investors to become indirect shareholders of Elon Musk's space technology company. Now, this is based on a change of rules back in May that allow newly listed companies to be fast-tracked into widely tracked benchmarks. Our correspondent Kate Fisher has more details from Washington, D.C.
This change to NASDAQ's rules has allowed very large newly listed companies to qualify for entry within a matter of days instead of waiting for months, meaning that passive funds that track the NASDAQ 100 must buy SpaceX shares, so their portfolios continue to match that index. So this isn't actually like an investment choice by the fund managers, it's part of the mandate. Reuters estimates that more than $4 billion of passive buying could result from SpaceX's inclusion on the NASDAQ, and it means that many people are becoming indirect investors, as you mentioned. And so if you own a NASDAQ 100 index fund or an exchange-traded fund, you'll now own a small slice of SpaceX automatically. So that means that millions of retirement savers and pension fund members will gain exposure to SpaceX, whether they want to or not, without placing any kind of order themselves. And while this kind of forced buying can create short-term demand, history shows it can often be temporary. Some analysts note SpaceX's share price hasn't experienced a big boost simply because it joined this index, and that provisional result disappointing for investors who thought that this automatic index buying would boost those shares.
And now to Asian markets, where stocks in the Republic of Korea tumbled on Wednesday, pushing the market into a bear territory. The benchmark Kospi fell more than 5.4%, leaving it over 20% below its June peak. That's as tech-led sell-off following months of strong gains rattled investor sentiment. The sharp decline followed heavy losses in the previous session when Samsung shares plunged nearly 10%, despite the world's largest memory chip maker forecasting a 19-fold jump in second quarter operating profit. Investors are increasingly questioning where AI-driven earnings growth can be sustained if supply constraints in key components, including memory chips, begin to ease. Japan's bond market is under mounting pressure. The 10-year government bond yield jumped to as much as 2.865% on Wednesday, hitting highest level in nearly 30 years. The bond sell-off was largely fueled by market concerns that the government's expansionary policy will add to fiscal pressure and even slow the central bank's rate hike path. In the meantime, the Japanese currency remained near a four-decade low on Wednesday, hovering around 162 yen to the dollar level. And in the meantime, Goldman Sachs believes the yen's downtrend is not over yet. The investment bank has sharply raised its 12-month dollar-yen forecast to 165. Football fans from around the world have flocked to Mexico to take in the FIFA World Cup matches. But another football tournament with a scientific twist has also drawn attention to the country's capital. CGTN's Alastair Baverstock has more.
While the FIFA World Cup has brought much attention to Mexico City's Estadio Azteca, another venue across town staged a different sort of football tournament. This one played entirely by robots. The Footbot MX Cup brought together students and robotics enthusiasts from across Mexico, including Alan Magallanes, who travelled from the country's less developed south.
I'm very happy here. In my home state, resources are more limited, and emerging technologies haven't even arrived, so we're doing twice the work to be able to compete.
Teams had just over 2 months to build robots capable of moving autonomously and making their own decisions on when to pass, defend and shoot.
We had to learn new technologies. My role is in mechanics, so I had to understand the measurements, the different components and how the motors work together. It's a very complex process.
For many competitors, however, the event is about more than winning trophies. Success here can open doors to international robotics competitions and future careers in engineering. Hasivi Rayon and her all-female team are preparing for a major international robotics competition in China, seeking to prove Mexico is capable of building advanced technology of its own.
We aren't only consumers of technology. Here we are showing that we know how to create, design and manufacture our own. We have a huge responsibility to create these benefits for Mexico.
Organised by Mexico's Ministry of Science, Humanities, Technology and Innovation, the national tournament is designed to showcase how robotics skills can be applied beyond the football pitch.
What starts as a game today could become a useful robot tomorrow. It could help guide patients in hospitals, lead tours, or perform many other tasks. These small football-playing robots are just the beginning.
As robots play increasingly important roles in everyday life, organisers hope combining robotics with Mexico's passion for football will inspire a new generation of engineers. Alastair Baverstock, CGTN, Mexico City.
When it comes to cutting-edge artificial intelligence, researchers at the University of Maryland are finding that some of the best ideas come from nature. They're looking into the tiny but mighty brains of bees and insects to build the next generation of smarter robots. Francis Kuo has the report.
Walking up to this building at the University of Maryland is to follow a path to where breakthroughs are born. Researchers here are advancing AI by turning to nature.
Bees are so intelligent. If you look at the brain of the bee that has been analyzed, you will identify a dozen areas that each one of them is doing something particular, and they are communicating with each other.
The bee is a favorite model for computer science professor Yanis Alimonos. He created RoboBeehive, an artificial beehive, using small drones based on the real movements of bees to pollinate flowers.
It was a few years ago that the bees were dying for a variety of reasons, and we wanted to investigate the possibility that if they disappear, whether we can take over pollination with artificial systems.
Turns out bees are biological marvels. With just under 1 million neurons packed into a tiny brain, bees have extremely complex cognitive abilities. While we might rely on GPS to get around, bees have their own internal navigation system.
Imagine a collapsed building where there are, tight spaces. Now, we would not want ideally humans or firefighters to go into it.
But bee-like drones can, with precision.
One of the big applications of robotics is agriculture, where you want a robot to inspect crops, spray crops, etc. In greenhouses, especially with flowers, it's important that the robot can be around humans and it doesn't cut the flowers. Inspecting gas areas where there may be natural gas leaks. There's many applications in defense.
Researchers acknowledge that developing such technology can take years, delaying mainstream use even longer. But with nature providing endless possibilities, our future may be as simple as going back to the basics.
Nature and biology has already made machines that are much more capable than anything humans can make.
Frances Coe, CGTN, College Park, Maryland.
Chinese autonomous driving technology has arrived on the streets of Zagreb, Croatia, with plans to expand across Europe. Regulations still require a human safety operator behind the wheel, but passengers could soon be riding in fully driverless robot taxis with no pedals or steering wheel. Alusha Milenkovic reports.
Parked in the middle of Zagreb's business district, this vehicle looks like any ordinary taxi. But the technology behind the steering wheel shows it's anything but.
So our Chinese partner, Pony AI, are providing the autonomous driving technology and the whole stack, the software and the hardware around it. What we are doing, we are using that technology to implement it here on the grounds in Zagreb, in Croatia, and then later on in Europe.
The project's developers say regulation around the technology in Croatia helped make Zagreb their first launch location in Europe. Now, to try the service, with the help of a company representative, Filip Cindric, we ordered our robo-taxi ride.
So the first step is to open our own Vern app. We input the address. In our case, that's Bundek here in Zagreb.
Minutes later, the vehicle arrived and the journey began.
So after we have securely fastened our seatbelts and closed the doors, the next step is to start the ride on the screen.
The ride will start soon. Interior AC is on, and you can adjust it via the passenger screen.
For now, regulations require that a human or safety operator still sits behind the wheel. There is no difference between a human driver and driverless taxi. You, or me in this case as a passenger, have absolutely the same feeling, the same experience, and there is no reason for any kind of, well, thus far, for any kind of anxiety. Philip told me that the public have quickly embraced the new service.
The customers are actually very satisfied in this, let's say, 2 months post-launch. We had over 1,000 rides, and more than 90% of all of them were rated 4 or 5 stars.
Developers hope Zagreb's experiment will be just the first step in expanding to other European cities. And all of that thanks to the Chinese breakthroughs in this area.
Basically, China is currently leading the world in a lot of fields, especially in the mobility sector. I think just the scale of how China is putting forward the science and technology is something that Europe should look forward to, or should look into and try to replicate.
The next step will be a purpose-built robotaxi designed without pedals or a steering wheel. Alusha Milenkovic, CGTN, Zagreb.
And with that, I'm wrapping up this edition of Global Business on CGTN. I'm Lily in Beijing. Thanks for watching. Till next time, bye for now.